Part 204. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 2031. Only then did Cheng Baokyo react, and he was immediately in awe of Wen Ruyu. At this time, they were the only ones in the living room. Jin Ruoku, who had been inseparable with Wen Ruyu for these years, suddenly went out to visit friends. Wang Mo and He Qingyan returned to Shanghai to deal with their work and property issues. Lu Xiaoneng and Lin Yufan, the couple, is also trying to get their old house back, so they are not here. Wen Ruyu said to Su Mingyan, "I didn't tell anyone about this. Even Lao Qin didn't know that I knew about his work in advance, let alone Zibao. Don't talk too much after you leave." "I know the importance," Su Mingyan curled his lips. It wasn't that he didn't understand what Wen Ruyu meant, or wasn't he just afraid that his child would know that he had received the news in advance, and then the child would feel that he had a purpose in approaching Qin Huai. The more upright a person is, the less willing he is to have ulterior motives for the people he wants to make friends with. Although Su Mingyan only saw Zibao once at the party that day, he could already tell something about him. He was a brilliant young man with clear eyes and a firm mind. He knew at a glance that he was not a thing in the pool. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but look at Father Lu. "Brother Lu, the prosperity of your family is just around the corner." He is actually older than Lu's father, but at their age, no matter how old he is, he calls everyone else his brother. Although Father Lu was secretly proud in his heart, he refused to show it on his face and asked with a smile, "Brother, why did you say this? When the children and grandchildren are mature, the family can continue to be prosperous for another 100 years. Don't mention anything else, just one Luzhang is enough to protect the children and grandchildren for 3 generations, not to mention that the next generation of children and grandchildren are really outstanding in their own way. The youngest triplets are temporarily nothing can be seen, but their clever appearance is enough to show that they will not be simple in the future. With such outstanding parents who pay special attention to education, there is no need to worry about the failure of the children and grandchildren." The more Su Mingyan talked about it, the more envious he became. "I have been around the capital since I was a child, and I also stayed in old Shanghai for a few years. From what I have seen and heard, although there are many people whose families have strict education and are like tiger fathers and no dog sons, but those who are no more than 3 generations old still make up the majority. Ultimately, it is nothing more than the unworthy descendants." "Brother, you are really exaggerating." Father Lu kept smiling, and the wrinkles on his brows relaxed. "In my life, I am just a link between the past and the past in the Lu family. I inherit the style of my ancestors and the teachings of my descendants. All I want is just worthy of heaven and earth. How can a person who can connect the past and the next be an ordinary person?" After hearing Father Lu's words, Su Mingyan had more respect for Father Lu. Fu Bao was listening quietly. When he heard this, he smiled and said, "Mom often said that the smartest person in our family is Grandpa." "Grandpa Su, you are right." Su Mingyan teased her, "You think I'm right? How about learning oil painting from me? You are really keen on colors." Fu Bao couldn't help but glance at Wen Ruyu, and replied honestly, "If you teach me some oil painting techniques, if I have enough time, I will be willing to learn, but if you want me to shift the focus of painting to oil painting, then you definitely can't." "Okay, just now Grandpa Wen said you can't bite off more than you can chew." Between Eastern Chinese painting and Western oil painting, she personally values the former more and promotes the traditional culture of her country. Su Mingyan stretched out her skinny and deformed right hand and tapped her forehead. "Old Wen really taught you this lesson in vain. Listen, now treat his words as an imperial edict." Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 2032. Fu Bao pursed his lips and smiled and stopped talking. If we go on, the old man still has a lot more to say. Su Mingyan really loves to talk and can talk endlessly no matter when and where. He was very restrained during the years when he was decentralized. When Ryu knows the truth best. He couldn't say anything he wanted to say at that time. If he did say it, he would be beaten. He had to hold it in until now and let it out. Su Mingyan laughed, "You know me, you are as gentle as jade." When Ryu rolled her eyes at him, "Didn't you say that the person who knew you was the Tang and Song dynasties? How come it's me now?" Su Mingyan lived next to Tang Song and Wang Lan. Their friendship was the best. Sometimes it was so good that when Ryu was envious. Of course, he was no longer envious now. Now it was the turn of those old friends to envy him. "Why aren't you envious?" Fubao was very curious when Ryu blurted out. When Ryu said with a smile, "Because of your grandpa, I have lived a better life than them in these years. Now I have new friends like your grandpa, and you have a group of smart and cute children in your family. They have food and drink. This big man, the yard and the things that were confiscated back then are returned to their original owners. I am truly envied by gods. Kui Xiaoyuan is a very caring person. The Wen family compound and the Wen family's property have been well preserved. Therefore, after Wen Ryu was rehabilitated, everything was returned to the original owner. Unlike other families, most of them could only be compensated with money. Including Father Lu. For people like Wen Ryu and Wang Lan of Tang and Song dynasties, what does money mean? Their collections are their lifeblood. Mentioning this matter, Wen Ryu suddenly remembered her returned belongings and said to Fubao, "I have some things for your mother. I just packed them out yesterday. You can take them with you when you go home later." Fubao goes to school in the compound and is picked up and dropped off by guards here. There is no other way. Father Lu and Cheng Baoqiu like to live in the Wen family compound recently and often don't go back. Fubao snorted and didn't take it seriously at first. When she saw a lot of things Wen Ryu brought out, her eyes widened in surprise. "Grandpa Wen, are you rich? You gave so many good things to my mother." If I read it correctly, the first scroll unfolded by Wen Ryu is the original work of Zhao Mensi, right? Fubao has been deeply influenced by his elders since he was a child, and his eyesight is even better than that of his parents. Wen Ryu laughed happily. It was originally the Wen family's thing. It just returned to the original owner. It is not a fortune, but it is indeed an unexpected joy to get everything exactly as it was. "You, Grandpa Wen, I am alone in this life. I have no children, just a group of students, including 2 female students. If you don't want my things, ask your mother for them in the future." Among the several students, he favored the 2 female students the most, namely He Qingyan and Feng Qingxiu. Because they were the most filial and considerate, he only planned to give things to them. Wang Mo, Lu Xiaonan, and Fu Nanzheng were not given any share. However, He Qingyan felt that she had no descendants. Although she had a very filial grandnephew, her grandnephew's wife had always complained that her grandnephew kept sending her things. She really didn't like it, so when Wen Ryu said that he would give her Hefen Qingxiu something, he also gave his share to Feng Qingxiu. Anyway, what he got back was enough for He Hung Jun. "So I followed the teacher and made a fortune." Feng Qingxiu looked at the things in front of her with curiosity. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 2033. Feng Qingxiu has not lived with Wen Ryu for a long time, but she knows very well Wen Ryu's character of cherishing calligraphy and paintings by famous ancient and modern artists. It is true that even mountains of gold and silver cannot compare to his favorite painting. Therefore, when Wen Ryu asked her daughter to bring her 4 ancient paintings, Feng Qingxiu was a little unbelievable. Fubao also held his face, looking at the paintings that were unfolded at the same time with great care, and said in an almost admiring tone, "Grandpa Wen is really too generous, Mom. Such a painting, such a unique painting, has been damaged. As for the paintings that are really extinct, Grandpa Wen will give them to you, and he will give them 4 in a row. Only then did Feng Qingxiu notice other things besides ancient paintings, including several scrolls of gu embroidery, an inkstone, a set of jade ornaments with the 12 zodiac signs, and a pen holder with the red sandalwood openwork carving of the 7 sages of the bamboo forest. They are all good things, Lu Zhang said as he walked into the hall, picking up the towel hanging on the clothes rack and wiping his sweat. It was only mid-May and he was already sweating profusely. Feng Qingxiu poured him an enamel jar of warm water. What are you doing here? You're covered in stinky sweat. According to common sense, with his status, he no longer needs to take the lead in training. Instead, he spends more time sitting in the office and handling work. Lu Zhang finished drinking the water and said, "The car broke down and we were still a little far away from the compound, so I trotted back. That's really hard work. Sit down, take a rest, and appreciate the painting the teacher gave me." Feng Qingxiu proudly moved the painting to her husband. Look, just like your daughter said, are all unique." Lu Zhang smiled, "Congratulations on making another fortune." "That's not the case," Feng Qingxiu finished speaking and then sighed, "let's forget about getting rich. No matter how valuable these paintings and calligraphy are in the future, we can't really sell them. Unique traditional culture is a treasure that cannot be compared with money." Among the gifts Feng Qingxiu gave out in this life were gold, silver, and jewelry, as well as imperial green jade that would increase in value 3,000 times in the future, but there were no cultural relics, calligraphy, and paintings, not a single one. After listening to her words, Lu Zhang nodded and said, "Although it cannot be summed up by the word get rich, these things are indeed a fortune. Cultural wealth is also wealth. What you said is quite interesting. Yes, it is indeed a fortune, a rare fortune. I have to thank the teacher in person tomorrow. He is so kind to me." Feng Qingxiu carefully rolled up the scroll and delivered it in person. "On the 3rd floor, I put it into a blue and white porcelain painting vat filled with more than 20 scrolls, and did not forget to look at it for a moment." Lu Zhang followed him up to the 3rd floor, took out an jade bracelet from his left and right trouser pockets and handed it to her. "According to what you said, this will also be a small fortune in the future. If you can't make teacher Wen's fortune, you can't make this fortune good." Feng Qingxiu's eyes turned to his face. "Where did it come from?" "Although it is not full color, nor is it a glass type, a large section is very green, and a small section is transparent with green flowers floating in it. It is a sweet and sunny green tone. The base of the ice type is very delicate and compact, with no obvious graininess, and the water head is very good. Well, it is slightly uneven when held in the hand, which is one of the signs of manual polishing. Feng Qingxiu has not received jade for a long time, so this pair of round bracelets made of the same material are not the best, and she likes them very much." Lu Zhang sighed, "It's a long story." "Then keep your story short. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife." Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 2034. Lu Zhang was silenced by his wife, and after a while he said, "On the way back, I saw a girl kneeling on the side of the road, crying and selling this pair of bracelets, saying they were family heirlooms and wanted to perform surgery on her mother. I saw that she was pitiful. She was about the same age as Fu Bao, but she was very poorly dressed, and she had a filial heart, so I bought her." "You did nothing wrong. You should. If it were me, I would do the same thing." Feng Qingxiu praised her husband's actions, but then she realized something was wrong. "You had 20 yuan on your body when you left, do they only need 20 yuan? Is it a minor surgery? Major surgery can be expensive." Lu Zhang glanced at his wife. "This is what I'm going to tell you next." "Say," Feng Qingxiu had a vague guess. Lu Zhang coughed and said, "I borrowed 120 yuan from the guards. Each of the 4 guards with me lent me 30 yuan. You give me some money and I will return it to them later. Feng Qingxiu glanced at him and said funnily, don't you feel embarrassed when you borrow money? Then what's the shame? Who else would have nothing to do with so much money besides you? Lu Zhang didn't care that his eagerness to help others and the need to borrow money from the guards made people laugh. Besides, what I did was a good thing, not a bad thing. Feng Qingxiu took out 12 big unity cards from the space and gave them to him. I bought some watermelons from outside and brought them back. You can take 2 and cut them into pieces downstairs. Watermelons are sold so early. Lu Zhang said this, knowing in his heart that it was the fruit hoarded in his wife's space. He still remembered that she had said it several times, saying that there was no reason to take out the cantaloupe and share it with everyone. It's a pity that we can secretly deal with 1 or 2 of them as a couple. Feng Qingxiu shrugged, the early melons in the greenhouse have already come down. I saw some sent over from the farm at the foot of Yukwan Mountain. It was not enough for the children. There are also a few scattered ones on the market, but they are not displayed in the store. It was divided by insiders. Otherwise, she wouldn't have dared to take out the watermelon blatantly. Lu Zhang hummed, took the money and returned it to the guards, and at the same time distributed 2 watermelons to them. The leader we are following is really nice. After Lu Zhang left, the 2 security guards who were taking turns today and living in the same room looked at me and I looked at you, and they both felt honored. They are good people and have few things to do. They were assigned here, but they made all the brothers in the guard group envious. Lu Zhang and Feng Qingxiu are known to be kind and amiable in the compound, and their children are the same. They respect their teachers and every soldier in the compound, regardless of their position. It's not that there are no naughty people. Lu Erxiang is very naughty, but not naughty enough to cause headaches and annoying people. Tell me, if I ask Comrade Qingxiu for something, will Comrade Qingxiu help us? Halfway through eating the watermelon, one of the guards, Xiao Wu, suddenly said. Wang Qiao, who was sitting opposite him, said, it depends on what the matter is. If it's reasonable, Comrade Qingxiu shouldn't refuse. Our 2 leaders are very good. The military coat I'm wearing was given to me by Leader Lu. Xiao Wu hummed and fell into deep thought while eating. What's the matter with you? Wang Qiao asked him curiously. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 2035. Xiao Wu was silent at first, unable to withstand Wang Qiao's inquiry, and finally said, my father is suffering from an old illness. My brother Qian'er wrote to me, saying that we have a very powerful Chinese medicine doctor over there who said that he can use wild ginseng that has been used for a long time. Only by dispensing medicine can my father's symptoms be relieved. I went to several hospitals and pharmacies and couldn't find good ginseng, so I wanted to ask Comrade Qingxiu for help. If Xiao Wu hadn't run errands for Feng Qingxiu to deliver ginseng to Professor Xie, he wouldn't have thought of Feng Qingxiu when he couldn't find the ginseng now. But he knew that good ginseng was rare, and even Feng Qingxiu might not be able to find it for him. Wang Qiao used a spoon to scoop out the last bit of red flesh from half of the watermelon. After eating it, he began to use a spoon to chop off the green flesh near the skin. While eating, he said seriously to Xiao Wu, if you really can't find good ginseng, I think you can ask Comrade Qingxiu. This is a big deal for your father, and Comrade Qingxiu will definitely not find it troublesome. Things that were impossible for them to do and things that they couldn't find were very simple for Lu Zhang and Feng Qingxiu. So, the next morning, after listening to Xiao Wu's plea, Feng Qingxiu nodded in agreement without saying a word. I still have a ginseng there that I can give to you, but I paid someone to find it, so you have to pay the money. She cannot develop a behavior in which others take and want from her without paying any price. The reason why she didn't talk about money for Professor Xie was because she had an unusual relationship with Professor Xie, and Professor Xie was very good to her. Even the 2 calligraphy and paintings he gave her couldn't be exchanged for 10 ginseng. Xiao Wu was overjoyed. I paid, I will definitely pay. I never thought about asking the leader for asking for ginseng in vain. His parents and brothers were better people than Wang Qiao's family. They never asked him for money. Instead, they asked him to save his salary allowance so that he could marry a wife later, so he could afford the money to buy ginseng. Feng Qingxiu bought a ginseng stick for 200 yuan and gave it to him at the original price, but she still received endless gratitude from Xiao Wu. It's a little effort for us, but it's a life-saving grace for them. Xiao Wu should thank you. You can definitely bear it. Lu Zhang, who came back in the evening, heard his wife mention this and felt that he had given the ginseng to Xiao Wu at the original price. Feeling a little embarrassed, he said pertinently, "After all, you don't make any money from this." Feng Qingxiu scratched the broken hair on her temples. "I just feel that Xiao Wu's father is waiting for help, and we should give him a little help. It's the biggest help if you help him find ginseng. Even if you are a good person, you have to be moderate in everything. You did a good job before giving the ginseng to Xiao Wu after receiving the money. Otherwise, others will think that you have ginseng in your hand. In the future, if you don't want to give money but still want ginseng, what should you do at that time? If you give me money, you will be in trouble, and if you don't give it, you will feel bad." Feng Qingxiu deeply believed that, being a good person and doing good deeds must have a bottom line. Without a bottom line, it will only condone the feud between rice and rice. After saying this and thinking like this, the breath in my heart suddenly became peaceful. Go to bed early. How have you worked so hard since last year? There is probably no trace of me in your eyes. Lu Zhang couldn't help but feel jealous. He felt that he, the head of the family, was about to become the leader of the family. Even though he was invisible, Dun Dun had a greater sense of presence than him. After all, Feng Qingxiu had regular inquiries every day. Feng Qingxiu was a little embarrassed and kissed him on the face a few times with a loud voice. "Who said that? Look, look, my bright eyes are full of you. If you don't believe it, just look carefully. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment." Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 2036. Under the light, her eyes were as bright as stars, as clear as autumn water. When most people reach her age, they have experienced many things and have to worry about their children, so their eyes have a lot of vicissitudes of life, which are no longer the same as before, but her eyes are still clear, probably because she never forgets her original intention. Lu Zhang stepped forward and stood in front of her, breathing hot breath on her face. "Let me take a closer look to see if I am really there." "Just look, what are you doing with your hands?" The complaints were gradually replaced by gasps, and the moon outside the window was too embarrassed to look at, and it quietly hid behind the clouds. At 5 o'clock the next day, Lu Zhang got up with a satisfied look on his face, then went upstairs and woke up several children as usual. "We are all up to exercise. The one who runs first today will be rewarded with half a watermelon at noon. The hotter the weather, the greater the temptation of watermelon." Lu Erxiang sat up straight as a carp, picked up the vest from the pillow and put it on his head haphazardly, regardless of whether it was worn inside out or not. Yan, Dun Dun, and Zhuang got up and dressed in an orderly manner, putting on shoes and socks. This was the result of Lu Jiang's long-term training, and they had developed good living habits. Lu Erxiang followed Lu Zhang panting. "Did our dad take any tonic? He ran so fast today." "Is it fast?" Yan didn't feel it. Lu Erxiang nodded vigorously. "It's a lot faster. I used to run 3 laps before I started to pant, but now I'm panting after 2.5 laps. Lu Zhang said without looking back, "If you say a few more words, I believe you will be more breathless." Lu Erxiang curled his lips and then closed them. In the army compound, there were many people who had the same biological clock as them. Although Zhou Fengshu was old, He was still strong. He ran to them all the way and looked at Lu Erxian, who was as strong as a calf. He smiled at them as he ran. Lu Jiangdao, Xiong is actually 12 years old this year, right? I remember he was born in 1967. Lu Jiang nodded. 4.5 young men almost broke me out. Zhou Fengshu laughed and said, "Don't worry, you won't have enough to eat. As long as we are here, you will not be deprived of food no matter what. Your children are the envy of many people. Summer vacation is coming soon, and this year we plan to reorganize the courtyard. The purpose of forming a Boy Scout army is to allow the children of cotters in the compound to enjoy the treatment of children of the army in advance, so send all of them from your family." Lu Erxian's eyes lit up. "Are you a soldier? Can you get a gun?" He liked it. "You receive training like soldiers. Naturally, there will be target shooting events, and of course you will touch the gun." Zhou Fengshu looked back at Lu Erxian with a smile. "How about it, Erxian, are you willing to go? Your father joined the army at the age of 16. You have been training since you were 12 years old, and you are better than your father." Okay, Lu Erxian nodded like a chicken pecking at rice. Dun Dun and Zhuang were a little unhappy. They were not as innocent as Lu Erxian. As long as it involved the formal training of the army, it would be 100 times more cruel than what they were training with their father now. Yayan is indispensable. After all, he grew up in the army and has a military complex. "Grandpa Zhou, I'm 15 years old, am I still within the scope of participation?" There is more than 3 years age difference between him and Lu Erxian, so they can't participate in the same training event, right? In that case, the younger ones will be at a disadvantage. No matter how strong Lu Erxian looks, he is still a child under the age of 12. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 2037. Zhou Fengshu listened to Yayan's question, gave him an appreciative look, and then replied, "The candidates are between 10 and 16 years old. Of course you are also included, but older children are not as good as younger ones. I don't know exactly how to arrange the training. I'll know when the time comes." He just heard that some of the cotters in the compound thought that his boys were disgusting with people and that they were not good people, so he came up with this trick to consume their energy and save them from having to whip 2 belts a day. They wanted to go to the house to uncover the tiles. Lu Zhangzhang felt that the children took up too much of his wife's time and energy, so he immediately signed up for them. Dun Dun and Zhuang wanted to object, but unfortunately they had no chance. As soon as the time came, Lu Zhang personally sent them over and handed them over to the instructor responsible for training these children. Since it was summer vacation, they stayed in the same dormitory vacated by the recruit company and participated in the training together. In addition to taking care of all tasks, other types of projects are almost the same as those of the recruit company, which fills many children with natural military complex with longing. There is no brother in the courtyard who doesn't want to shoot with a gun. Although he was determined to send his children to participate in training, Lu Zhang knew his own children's physical constitution and quietly said to the instructor, "You train other children equally, no matter how hard or tiring. I won't say anything, just my little son is troublesome. Comrade, please note that since he was young, his body bones have not been as strong as those of his brothers and cannot be used to encourage growth. Moreover, he is also allergic to sea pollen and the like, so he needs to be careful. The natural foundation is there. No matter how Zhuang trains to improve his physique, he is still far behind his brothers." This instructor used to be Lu Jiang's guard. He knew the situation of the Lu family's children. He put his feet together, saluted the military salute, and said with a smile, "Don't worry, leader. I know the importance. I will place Zhuang next to the 10-year-old child 1 mile. Don't say goodbye. Zhuang's body is weak, but his heart is not weak. With such an arrangement, he will definitely think too much. Zhaizi Emoruofu. Since you said so, I will adapt accordingly when the time comes anyway. He, the instructor, has the final say on the training content. Arranging other tasks for Zhuang can divert the training time. Lu Zhang thanked him, turned around and sent Fu Bao out again, to the Wen family compound. Doesn't she like to learn from the old man? Do what you like. By the way, I took the two little ones to be nurtured. As for Zibao, he is so busy that he only goes home twice in one semester, and he is usually very busy. Now he is studying with Qin Huai, working as his assistant, and managing his student aid plan, drawing funds to form a transportation team to make money. I didn't even think about coming back. Wang Quilin was so smart that she moved into the Wen family compound with her under the guise of looking for Cheng Baoqiu. As a result, the entire Lu family turned from lively to silent. Except for the guards, orderlies, and nannies, only Lu Zhang and Feng Qingxiu were the couple, and they were a little uncomfortable. Why do I feel like my house is empty all of a sudden? Feng Qingxiu felt uncomfortable all over. However, Lu Zhang felt good and said proudly, now is our world for the two of us. After a busy year, busy with the elderly, busy with children, busy with national affairs, busy with small things, but neglecting the relationship between husband and wife. Lu Zhang deeply felt that he could not continue like this. His wife had many things to do, and she had to worry about this and that. He should take the initiative to head office. Between husband and wife, no one stipulates that only one party can take the initiative. Sensing her husband's sense of crisis, Feng Qingxiu couldn't help but smile like a flower. How about we make a date? Although many years have passed, the scene of taking me on a bicycle is still vivid in my mind. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 2038. Lu Zhang geared up. Very good, our bicycle is finally put to use. At first he borrowed his comrade's bicycle, but now he rides his own big Phoenix. It was cold at first, so she was wrapped in a military coat with a dogskin mat underneath. Now in June, with the scorching sun in the sky, there are no dogskin mats, only cotton mats. Feng Qingxiu especially wore a white shirt and a black skirt, which was shiny and shiny. Her long hair is styled into fishbone braids and she wears a straw hat, looking both intellectual and elegant. Sitting diagonally on the back seat of the bicycle, her skirt was slightly raised. Seeing them passing by in a blink of an eye, the family members of the soldiers who were enjoying the shade under the shade of the trees were stunned. Are those Lu Zhang and Xiaoxiu? It was Guo Yan who spoke, and sitting opposite her chatting was Guo Kui, and several family members of veteran cotters. There were also several younger women chatting with them, all family members of the army. Guo Yan felt that her eyes were a little blurry, so she rubbed her eyes and asked Guo Kui. Her grandson lives in the Lu family. Guo Kui goes to the Lu family much more often than Guo Yan. Moreover, she also knew Lu Zhang and Feng Qingxiu earlier than Guo Yan. She recognized Lu Zhang before he even got close to her. Now she hears that when Guo Yan asked, she smiled and said, "Who are they?" I look at them, they are still the same as when they were young. Doesn't she look like she did when she was young? She is clearly young. Comrade Lu Zhang is just that. His revolutionary partner Comrade Qingxiu has never looked older. What she looked like when I first saw her is what she looks like now. The person who said this was Ye Cheng. Her son Li Jun was Zhang Xiaoyu's childhood sweetheart and fiancé. Unexpectedly, the engagement was annulled by the Zhang family due to character issues. Of course, Ye Cheng thought it was Lu Tianjun who stole her love, so there was a quarrel at Jiang's house. If Feng Qingxiu hadn't saved her children later, they wouldn't have been able to turn the fight into friendship. Her family, Lao Li, can be regarded as living up to expectations. Their family has lived in the capital military region compound for a long time. Unfortunately, no one, Lu Zhang, can live up to his expectations. Lao Li has not been promoted for several years. He probably can only retire from his current position and be replaced by someone later. Yaqing's words were filled with emotion, but some people felt that Feng Qingxiu was not decent. The children are old and have gone to college. I remember that a lot of them were still dressed up like little girls, and they were so beautiful that they were not afraid of bringing bad influence. Our army compound is a solemn place. Yaqing looked at the person who spoke. He had an ordinary appearance and rough hands. Unfortunately, he didn't recognize him, so he didn't bother to speak. Guo Yan and Guo Kui usually interacted with the families of big leaders, and they didn't recognize the middle-aged woman's family. Today, they sat together to enjoy the shade for the first time, smiled, and changed the subject. Lu Zhang and Feng Qingxiu are already happy enough, and there is no need to speak for them in front of others and make people resentful. The pace of reform and opening up will soon come, and Feng Qingxiu will not care about other people's comments about her poor dress. As a lesbian, who doesn't want to stay young and beautiful forever? She wasn't pretending to be naive. Lu Zhang, who was much older, was in a high mood at this time. Let's go to eat first, and then go to the department store. On such a hot day, you want to take me to eat elbow. I told Xiao Yang in the restaurant in advance that we will eat elbows today. Lu Zhang enjoys all kinds of meat, regardless of spring, summer, autumn, or winter. Seeing the shiny red braised big elbow, Feng Qingxiu suddenly felt that the two of them had really gone back to the past, recalling the thrill of their first acquaintance and the ignorance and shyness when they came into contact. I've coded so many words that I don't even know what morning sickness is. Maybe coding is the best way to solve morning sickness. Crying with laughter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 2039. Everything is fine, but God is not kind to us. Just as Lu Zhang and Feng Qingxiu moved their chopsticks to the big elbow, several thunders sounded outside, and suddenly dark clouds gathered and heavy rain poured down. It's raining. Feng Qingxiu looked at Lu Zhang. They just wanted to relieve the past, and they didn't bring an umbrella when they came out. Do they want to be like two drowned rats? Lu Zhang turned to look at the rain outside the window and squinted his eyes. The thunderstorm won't last long. It will probably stop after we finish eating. Even if it doesn't stop, I can borrow the spare umbrella from the hotel. Within the confines of the compound, his face is quite useful. Feng Qingxiu chuckled, her eyes turning. Then I'll wait and see. Lu Zhang took a chopstick of lean meat and put it in her bowl. Eat more tonic. You have lost a lot of weight recently. It's hot and I have no appetite. This is one of the reasons. The other reason is that the boys in my family are all hungry wolves. They eat like a gangster. No matter how much chicken, duck, and fish are, it is not enough for them to eat. But in the country without subsidies, under the circumstances, no one could eat a big meal of fish and meat, so the elders naturally ate with the children first, and the 2 pounds of meat that Wen Ruya gained during his time disappeared within a few days. Lu Zhang didn't say anything, but he knew in his heart what was going on at home. I sent a bunch of brats to the army. They won't be able to come back for 10 days and a half. If there is anything delicious, you can eat more of it yourself. Send the ones that come out to Dad and the others. Various tickets have not been cancelled yet, so all Wen Ryu and Jin Ruoka can get are basic supplies for the citizens of the capital. 1 or 2 pounds of meat a month is enough for what? Wen Ryu's words are not enough to fill the gap between teeth. Although Father Lu temporarily transferred his food relations to the capital in the name of visiting relatives, his treatment was similar to that of Wen Ryu and others. Only Cheng Baokyo was a retired cotter, and his treatment was much better. However, the relationship between the couple did not change. It was Zhao Anbang who picked it up on their behalf in Huihei City, saying that he wanted Lu Zhang to provide for them in their old age. After all, they were not related by blood. Therefore, Lu Zhang and Feng Qingxiu had to subsidize each month. Fortunately, Ye Zhenjun and his wife, Zhou Fengxu, Zhang Yun, and others could not finish the supply every month, and most of the subsidies were used for their children. In addition, the Wanglu Brigade sends them various dried vegetables every year, including dried beans, dried amaranth, dried radishes, and the like. You are cruel enough. You sent them to the army to suffer. I don't know if the food in the army is to their taste. In less than a day, Feng Qingxiu started to worry. Although the child has not been away from him for a long time, the meaning is different. The management of the army is stricter. Lu Zhang chuckled and gave her another chopstick of fish. When they finish training, they will be very hungry. The cabbage cooked in plain water will taste delicious. You don't have to worry about whether the food is suitable to your taste. When the time comes, it will be good to eat some. In the army, eating is all done by robbing. If you are slow to move your chopsticks, you will go hungry. Lu Zhang was such a bad person. He didn't remind his children at all what to do when they got to the army, what kind of encounters they would encounter, and he didn't teach them his own experience. Anyway, they would figure it out slowly. If you figure it out on your own, the memory will be more profound. Feng Qingxiu always felt that he was smiling with evil intentions. Do you know something? What do I know? I know nothing, Lu Zhang blurted out and quickly changed the subject. Didn't you say what kind of collagen does pig skin contain? Eat more and beautify your skin. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 2040. Feng Qingxiu, who had a peach-like face, looked at him and didn't ask any more questions. She would know sooner or later anyway. Her appetite was really average, so Lu Zhang ate most of the food on the table. He packed up the rest and borrowed 2 lunch boxes from the hotel, then put them in the refrigerator in the kitchen. Take them back with you when we come back. Lu Zhang entertained guests in the hotel. Except for the new waiter, who didn't know that he was the boss. Of course he agreed. Not only that, Xiao Yang also thoughtfully gave me a big umbrella. God did not give Lu Zhang any face, and now he is still like broken pearls, rolling down in large pieces, making a sound when hitting the ground, causing ripples in the water on the ground. The only advantage is that it is probably cooler than before. Since they did not go outside the compound, they next visited the shops in the compound. The types of goods inside are no worse than those in department stores, and the quantity is naturally large. What is available here may not be available in department stores. Even after 10 or 20 years, the things supplied to the army are still the best, and there are many. There are many things that military officers can afford, but ordinary people outside cannot afford. Lu Zhang took out a stack of cloth tickets and bought several kinds of fabrics for Feng Qingxiu, including cotton, linen, poplin, and satin. The colors were different, but they were all bright. They were not old-fashioned colors such as navy blue, black gray, etc. Whether it's hot, make some more skirts and wear them at home. Feng Qingxiu rested her elbows on the counter, cupped her chin and said, "Okay, I'll ask Sister Xuanyang to make it for me." Chen Xuanyang was very courageous. Seeing that the outside world's policies were becoming more and more relaxed, many farmers secretly carried their own things into the city to sell them, so she also started her own clothing customization business in private. You can actually earn a lot of money by only doing it in a fixed circle. If it weren't for Fu Bao's talent for fashion design and Chen Xuanyang often using her designs, Feng Qingxiu wouldn't even know that her daughter had become a shareholder. Chen Xuanyang and Fu Bao shared 64 points, Fu Bao drew design drawings, Chen Xuanyang solicited business, and occasionally designed her own clothes, and gave 2 dividends from her 60 points to the old tailor who worked with her, because Fu Bao, in addition to making clothes, the tailor master also helped her recruit several tailors with outstanding skills at the same time, and could receive hundreds of orders a month. An order can range from dozens of yuan to hundreds of yuan, and the other party has to provide the materials themselves. Even so, the clothes they make are in short supply. The more status and sophisticated lesbians are, the less they like to wear the same style of clothes as others. People like this are as numerous as crucian carp crossing the river at the feet of the emperor in the capital, and they spend a lot of money. When Feng Qingxiu found Chen Shui's mother's house, she was sending a middle-aged woman with fashionable clothes and exquisite makeup out. The woman looked very unfamiliar. Feng Qingxiu had never seen her before. She looked at Feng Qingxiu a few more times, with a hint of surprise in her eyes. She said to Chen Xuanyang without saying anything, "My daughter's wedding is coming soon. Please, comrade, be careful and don't keep us waiting." "Don't worry, comrade, you can pick up the clothes in a week. They are absolutely unique and you are guaranteed to be satisfied." Chen Xuanyang has been in business for half a year and is already familiar with it. It is just 2 dresses. The master can make them in 1 day. If not for her, there are still a dozen orders ahead, and Chen Xuanyang will not set a deadline of 7 days. The woman nodded and left with her purse in hand, her back looking very imposing. Chen Xuanyang held Feng Qingxiu's arm. "Why do you have time to come to our thatched house when you are so busy? It's so radiant."